Hey there guys, how's it going, and welcome to my top 5 surprisingly good gold guns. Now quickly need to say before we go into the top 5 that this is not the top 5 surprisingly good looking gold guns. This top 5 is all based about the weapons themselves. It's of course personal preference. I'd love to know what you guys think are the top 5 surprisingly gold guns in your opinion, but this is just based on what I think are ones that people either don't use too much or that are a little bit underrated. So let's get on with the top 5 countdown. So starting us off at number 5, my first surprisingly good gold gun is the 5.7. I really didn't think too much of this pistol, but after I used it and got the gold camo, I really think it's an absolute beast, and most people who go around using this weapon actually think so as well. It often gets overlooked instead of the, say, TAC 45 or the Cap 40, which are really good as secondaries, because when you have a secondary, normally what you want is you want to swap out to that gun really quickly and kind of kill someone really quickly with a high damage weapon at close range. And the TAC 45 has extremely high damage at close range, and the Cap 40 obviously has that easy spray and pray ability, but the 5.7 has some huge advantages which makes it really good as a primary weapon on its own. So when you're trying to get gold camo for it, it's actually great fun to use, and I ended up getting some great gameplays because I think it really does compete with the other primary weapons. Now there's a few reasons for that. Number one, it has an extremely fast fire rate, so practically as fast as you can pull that trigger it will fire. So those of you with a really good trigger finger or trigger stops on your SCUF controller will find this gun really good. Also, it has basically no recoil. You'll see in these clips it has practically no recoil whatsoever, which makes it really good at range, not because it has high damage at range, just because you can keep firing off bullets and your recoil won't affect your aim whatsoever. And finally, it just has a huge magazine. This gun has 20 bullets per magazine and 27 with extended clip. So combine that with the low recoil and you can and the fast fire rate, of course, and you can just easily kill people over long range. You can fire off tons of ammunition without worrying about it. So that's my number 5 choice for my surprisingly good gold guns, the 5.7. My number 4 choice is the M1216, another gun that I didn't expect to enjoy, but by the time I actually ended up getting the gold camo and after I'd used it for quite a long time, I really enjoyed this weapon. It's often overlooked in favour of, say, the Remington, which has slightly longer range, is maybe a little bit easier to use, but this thing is extremely deadly at very close quarters. So if you can actually use it with the right game style, as you can see I'm trying to do in these clips that I've got for my gold gun video, I'm staying indoors, I'm staying in situations where most of my gunfights are going to be close quarters. It can be extremely lethal and will outgun most things, and not to mention it is a little bit forgiving. You know, it is a semi-automatic, you know, it does 4 shots and then you get a little bit of a pause there before you get to pull off another 4 shots, but I found it really useful. Got some great games with it, and I think it's overlooked. If you're going to use this, don't just try and use it like an assault rifle submachine gun, just absolutely make sure you stay in close quarters, and for that reason it's actually really good at free-for-all, because a lot of those close quarters encounters are on the free-for-all maps because they're quite often smaller. And a lot of people ask me for some tips on getting this one gold because you need one-hit kills, and one tip would be to go for hardcore game modes. That's an easy way of doing it, but I actually just did it playing free-for-all, because if you just rush people, constantly rushing into people, getting as close as you can, you will find that you will sometimes get that one-hit kill when you're really close and if you aim for the chest or head area. So I think it's a brilliant weapon. So that's my number 4 for my surprisingly good gold guns, the M1216. So at number 3, I've chosen the KSG, another gun that when I first started using it, I thought, what's going on with this weapon? I couldn't work out why it was so bad, and that's because I was using it like the KSG for Modern Warfare 3, but this thing is just set up completely differently. It fires a sniper slug, if you don't know. For more details about the kind of way to use this gun best, check out my gold KSG video where I explain it all, but you have to be extremely accurate with this. You have to be aiming down sight, make sure you get them bang center, middle of mass, and you'll get a one-shot kill over an extremely long range, especially if you use the long barrel. Now I often use this with quick draw and stock paired with long barrel as well sometimes, and I was just getting some amazing one-shot kills over an extremely long distance. So if you can be accurate, this is an absolute beast of a weapon. You can go out and just wipe out whole rooms full of people, and not to mention the fact that this thing has 18 bullets or slugs before you even need to reload. So you don't even need to reload that often. The reload's not that slow, which also makes it a great gun. So it takes takes a bit of getting used to, but once you've mastered it, this thing is an absolute beast. So that's my number 3 choice for a surprisingly good gold gun, the KSG. My number 2 choice for a surprisingly good gold gun is the SMR. This thing is an absolute beast when used in the right hands. A lot of people are put off by this weapon because it's a little bit slow to handle, but it's a 2 to 3 hit kill over any range. Like, that is really, really good when you actually think about that. It's one of the highest damage guns in the game, and it's not actually that slow to use. You know, if you've got a decent trigger finger, once you actually learn the speed that you need to pull that trigger to get the fastest fire rate out of it, it's extremely useful. So if you can be patient with this weapon, if you can aim down sight and anticipate your gunfights instead of trying to run into gunfights and outgun people, you will win a lot of the time. Just make sure your aim is on them, make sure you're aiming down sight as much as you can, especially when going into small close quarters areas or into rooms where you expect there to be enemies there, then you will do a lot of damage. I'm sure a lot of you know that I got my first ever nuclear with this gun. I got a nuked out in free-for-all while using this weapon, and that's kind of just testament to how deadly this thing can be. If you can just get both of those shots or 3 or 4 of those shots on target, you will down people every time. So you do have to be quite good with your accuracy with this weapon, but once you do have that great accuracy, and if your aim is really on point, this thing can be a great weapon. So that's my number 2 choice for a surprisingly good gold gun, the SMR. So my number 1 choice for a surprisingly good gold gun in Black Ops 2 is the Chicom CQB. And I know there's quite a few people out there who realise this is a good gun, but even still, I think this thing is massively underused. I hardly ever get killed by this weapon, but when I use this weapon, it doesn't take long for me to realise how much of a beast it is. It's another burst weapon, so you're going to have to get the timing down a little bit for how quickly you need to pull the trigger, because if you pull it too fast, you will get a little bit of a stop in between shots, which is a little bit annoying. But once you've got the timing down, you can just absolutely rip into people with this weapon. Extremely high damage. In my opinion, I prefer it without select fire. Why change a gun into something that it's not? That reduces the damage range as well, which is a little bit of a penalty. But if you guys just love rushing, please try this gun. I recommend it with laser sight and maybe fast mags, but I think laser sight is the one. You can really rush up on people and just spray the crap out of them with this thing, and it's just an ideal rushing gun. I really think it is great. I kind of like burst weapons as well, so maybe that's why I think it's so good. But I think this gun is hugely underrated in Black Ops 2 Online. Hardly ever see it used, so that's why it's my number 1 surprisingly good gold gun. So if you did enjoy this countdown, don't forget to smash that like button. I'll now be doing the top 5 worst gold guns. That's the next one I've got to do. If you didn't see my top 5 gold guns in general, be sure to check that one out. There'll be an annotation at the end of the video, or you can search for it on my channel. And that's it for now, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.